Welcome to this early access review of Strike Buster Prototype. If you don't have any affinity for old school arcade games, then click away now, this is probably not for you. For the others, join me while I take a closer look. Let's start with some housekeeping. Strike Buster Prototype is developed by Zero Castle Game Studios and published by Cheese Games. I played the early access build on the 22nd of September. If you're watching this later, please note that this review might be outdated. I would describe Strike Buster as asteroids on steroids, with some rogue elements thrown in for good measure. The game, although simple, has quite a few interesting mechanics that add enough to its basic concept to keep it interesting. Let's start with the weapon screen, where you select your guns. There are 3 types of weapons in this game, each with their own distinct color that matches with the armor of the various enemies. Shoot red enemies with the red weapon, blue enemies with the blue one, and purple enemies with the purple weapon. To make things a bit more complicated, every weapon also has subtypes. The red bullet type weapons, for instance, can be shotguns or submachine guns that shoot faster but are less powerful. You unlock these weapons by loot boxes that you get a chance to unlock after each round, or rather each game that you play. All guns in this game appear to be randomized, much like action RPG loot systems these days. The guns have certain effects like Missile Storm, which sends out a large number of missiles in all directions, the Pocket Black Hole, which creates a black hole that attracts enemies, and some passive effect like increased damage. Besides the weapon overview, there are 2 other screens that influence your next game. Relics let you choose one or multiple relics you carry into your next game at the cost of a certain amount of gold. There are 2 types of relics. The green relics are active relics, and you need to spend energy to use them. These can be like a small shield or extra missiles, stuff like that. White relics are passive and spend no energy and can be things like you do X percentage more damage. Lastly, there's the permission screen, which allows you to unlock various relics. And once they are unlocked, they can be used either on the relic screen or found in-game. Once you unlock all the relics under a certain level, the next level of relics unlocks for you. Now, I think the actual menus we went through just now are perhaps the worst part of the game. During my first play, it took me a few minutes to even find out how to start the game, because there's no new game or start button of any kind. The way you start the game is by clicking on the image of the lovely lady on the home screen. Not something I expected. I also had extra complications as I already selected relics in one of the menus that I didn't have the currency to pay for yet because I didn't play any games yet, and I just was unsure how to start the game. I actually had to restart it. The menus could really have used some more dimensionality to it. First, you select what you want to do, new game or unlock artifacts. If you select new game, it would then ask you for which artifacts to equip, after which you get to the weapon selection screen to select your weapons. That would have made more sense to me. Now, as for the core gameplay loop, it's pretty simple. In the bottom right is an energy meter, and this can be considered to be your HP. And every time you kill an enemy, the meter goes up. Every time an enemy hits you, it goes down. When you start the game, the meter is up to 200, which means that your max HP at that point is also 200. However, by pressing the spacebar when the actual meter is full, you reset it, but you increase your max energy points. You don't want to spam this though, because when you're at max energy, your weapon also gets supercharged, you shoot faster, your attacks are stronger. Also, when you upgrade your energy bar, it resets to 0, so that makes you very prone to dying until you kill some more enemies. The space, as it's called on screen, is also used to pay for your active relics, with each relic having its own cost. There's also a boss that spawns every X minutes. These bosses appear to be randomized and have different effects, much like enemies in action RPGs. Once you die, you get coins that you can spend on loot boxes, which will hold anything from subtype gun licenses to extra gold to custom weapons that you can use in your next run. From there on out, it's pretty much rinse and repeat and see how high you can get in the rankings. Now, this game currently has some shortcomings. The enemy behavior is not very diverse. Most enemies will try to huck you to death, and sometimes the sheer number of them will simply overwhelm you. The art for the bosses is also pretty lacking. They're basically normal enemies with their sprites blown up 400%, with some different behaviors, but not enough to make them anything more than bullet sponges. I personally would prefer just a handful of handcrafted bosses with interesting behaviors than the unlimited amount of randomized bosses that are currently available. I also feel like the active relics are often not worth the energy it takes to activate them. I'd rather have that 50 HP extra than be invincible for like 5 frames. Since this game just came out on early access, I do think there's time to fix these issues though. Having said that, I don't think there will be huge growth during early access. Sure, there are some things they can improve, but the core gameplay loop will probably be the same, which makes it easier to decide right now whether this is something you want to keep an eye on, buy it, or just leave it be, because what you see is probably what you end up getting, even when the game finally releases. So, is it worth a buy? It really depends. If you like simple arcade games and prefer short gaming sessions, this game is probably worth it, as it's on sale right now for about €3.30 or your local equivalent. Where Strikebuster Prototype really shines though would be something mobile like Nintendo Switch or even other mobile platforms. It will be a perfect game while you're waiting on a bus or sitting in a train or some other scenario where you want a game on the go. Strikebuster Prototype is available on Steam right now. Thank you for watching, and till the next one.